Okay? So if you're ever emotionally distraught about a situation or circumstance, this is a fast, easy way to give yourself perspective and to not be as emotionally attached to the outcome. In present situations, think about a current situation that is causing you mental stress, whether that is a relationship with a spouse, a child, a client, whether that's your financial situation. Think about a current situation that's causing you mental stress. Think about that perspective from a superhero. Imagine what it would look like to Superman. Or if you have another superhero in your mind, that's somebody that you always think of as a hero, what would it look like to them? Now from the mentality and the perspective of somebody who never wins in life and is a constant loser. If they were to look at that situation, how would they feel about it? And then finally, a genius. Somebody that sees all possible answers, sees it clearly, can see that your solutions, can see your problems, can see all the areas that you're missing. And when they look at this situation, this typically brings clarity to situations that are currently causing us real stress and helps us analyze clearly and confidently. Future situations, the next one. Think about losing something in the future that you value. Now, this was a Stoic reframe that I learned while reading the book Happy by Darren Brown, and he talked about some people used to talk about the thought of losing their child unexpectedly, or their spouse, a loved one, unexpectedly, and playing that out in your mind and actually thinking about what it would do to you to lose that person. But to start off thinking about it from the perspective of a superhero. What that superhero would feel like if they lost Lois Lane. And then a loser, and then a genius. And to play that scenario out fully in all three circumstances. And then you have to finish because you're going to feel awful when you do this. You have to finish. Make yourself go all the way through it. The last thing you're going to do, oops, I cut my page off. Realize that no matter how the future plays out, it will never result in the future you're imagining. Your future is coming. The future that you're afraid of, the one that you just created, will not happen the way you just created it. It won't. So let it go. Now that you've played it out in your head and you got yourself all worked out, up, and all stressed out, and all upset, realize that it will never go that way. Never. You're not a mind reader. You're not a psychic. It won't go that way. It will go a way, but it will not go that way. Therefore, it makes no sense to worry about the future in that way. Not going to happen. It's going to happen another way, a different way, a way that is unexpected. But now that you've played out these different scenarios in your head, you have more emotional stability, you have a more focus, more control, more clarity. And when something happens to you and is taken from you that you like, you will have already trained your brain to reframe. And it helps give you more control and more power over those emotional uncertainties, over those things that are stressing you out. Reframing is one of the most powerful methods and tools that an individual can apply to their own mentality to give them clarity and control. Now, these other techniques are pretty powerful when you're working with others. The swish pattern and mapping across, and they're demonstrative. I can show you how to do it. I can make you do the visuals in your mind. With reframing, it really does all happen within your own head. And you really do need to give yourself time to play those situations out fully. Now, you remember earlier whenever I was asking you about the chips, and we were talking about, I asked you, now when you think about that, you get a picture or a movie in your head, and you're like, no, nothing. Nothing. You have to get a picture or a movie in your head. You have to play these scenarios out. You have to create it, and you have to be intentional about it. visualization applies to 80% of the neurons in our body. It changes our physiology. You have to be able to imagine, envision, and visualize the things that you want clearly, and it has to be attainable, it has to be reasonable, it all has to be well thought of, and you have to be able to see it clearly, guys, or else you won't be able to achieve those things. Now, does anybody have any questions about the checklist? You guys see me go through it the second time? Were you able to follow along? Was there anyone that while you were following along, something stood out to you that you were like, I want to know what this means? I don't really understand why you would ask this.
Well,
Yes.
I just kept thinking we should go back with his chips to the grocery store where he doesn't even buy them and bring them
Where you
home.
don't buy them and bring them home. Now, that is something that while I was a personal trainer, I used to tell people a lot was that, if you make yourself go out and get a craving rather than having it there in the home, it makes it a lot harder. That's a pretty good application. The reason we didn't go back further, and here's why I don't go back further, is because that's not where he started. I always go from where you're starting. Where is this a problem for you? Because
see, I don't buy the chips, so.
there you go. So his association with it was from the time that he has control.
Maybe we need to bring her up.
Sorry.
Under the bus.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming, James, on the blue stuff, you skipped over it because that wasn't his primary.
The reason that the blue stuff gets skipped over quite a bit by me was because it's actually so if you are a visual thinker primarily, this other stuff is going to matter to you.
Okay.
But if you're not a primarily visual thinker, then when I start asking this stuff, it actually breaks rapport.
Right.
They don't.
Because they can't answer it.
They can't answer it. They can't generate an idea, a concept, and they start getting frustrated because people want to answer your questions. But if they're not that type of thinker, they can answer it, but it's not easy.
Right.
It's not the first thing that their brain is generating. But having said that, I do like to use these occasionally because when people are visual thinkers or auditory thinkers or kinesthetic thinkers, when you hit on these, you can see them light up big time. They're like, oh yeah, definitely. So I do that a lot.
So I have a question. Do you think there's people that are more visual learners, but maybe not how they think?
Yes.
I mean, because I know I
Might not be the way they communicate.
right. I know I love music and stuff like that, but visually I read, I look at things, and I feel like I'm probably a very visual learner.
Yeah.
But I love music but I don't listen to audiobooks.
Okay.
That type of thing.
Sure. Is there anyone else in here that prefers audiobooks over regular reading? You do? Anyone else?
Well, I didn't used to, but I do now because I'm so busy.
And
Audio.
you're able to do two things at once, right? Okay. So most humans are visual. I will just go ahead and tell you that if you start to think that all humans are visual, you're going to really screw up in life. But if you will keep it as a rule of thumb that most of us are visual, then it will really help you because you can pretty much start there with anyone, is with visuals. Asking them how things look to them, when you see this, how do you see it? All of those type of things. Can you map this out for me? Could you diagram this? All of those types of things are visual types of words. And if you're hitting on people's visuals, they're going to open up to you more. Is there anyone in here that doesn't know what their primary is and would like to know? I have a representational system that I can send you, but I could show you really quickly how to determine whether somebody's a visual, auditory, or kinesthetic thinker.
Sure.
Would you like to do this? Come on up. Have a seat.